This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at Amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Have you ever noticed how some people lower their voice when they use the word disability?
Well, it'd be like saying to somebody with brown hair that brown hair is bad.
There'd be times when I would be with people, even with disabilities, that have bought into this.
Being in these different spheres, I see a lot of it as people just being insecure.
When really we use our brain to do ordinary things every day, just in a different body.
The new to me doctor, and he's like, I think you have juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, but I can't fully diagnose you. You need to go to the next bigger town.
He wants to be more inclusive, but doesn't know where to start. Have you ever noticed how some people lower their voice when they use the word disability? Like it's something fragile or something that needs fixing? But what if it wasn't a limitation? What if it was a declaration? Accessibility isn't about ramps and restroom measurements. It's about relationships, respect, and representation. And my guest today, Jenna Udenberg, lives with this truth every single day. She's the founder of Above and Beyond with You, an organization that proves inclusion can't be measured in inches or in codes, measured in compassion. Jenna, I've met so many people that say the word disability like it's something to be whispered, but you say it with pride. You build a community that helps people see ability first, not limits. Why is it so important to you that people understand disability is not a bad word to say at all?
Well, it'd be like saying to somebody with brown hair that brown hair is bad, or someone that uses glasses that, glasses are bad, contacts are bad, right? And so we just need to flip the script and flip the stigma that it's just a natural part of life, and so many people in disability culture and community will say, if you're blessed enough to live long enough, you'll experience disability. And disability culture is so diverse. It is so beautiful because anyone from any background, from any ethnicity, from any race can enter our community at any moment for a host of reasons. And so it's connecting us, right? And getting beyond the facade, getting beyond the pity, the limitations, the impairments, like all those negative connotative words. And don't get me wrong, right? Is living in a world full of barriers a pain? Absolutely. Is it soul crushing some days? Absolutely. But those are the environments that are soul crushing, not me and my existence as soul crushing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I remember in our pre-interview, I finally said, I think I found someone that thinks like me, especially, there'd be times when I would be with people, even with disabilities, that have bought into this idea that uh, we're a community that, has to be handled with specialty and delicacy, because but to me, one of us writing a book or one of us doing anything, it shouldn't be surprised as extraordinary, because my brain is not broken. I have limitations in my body, and I've talked to Max, the blind blogger, about this, and some of the other individuals we've had on our show that, yeah, we want to be seen as individuals just like other people have inabilities, and at some point, you are going to move in and out of disability. It's just a fact of inability. You're going to break an arm, you're gonna have an ingrown toenail, you're going to have something, and I know that's gonna trigger the, uh, the, the police, I'm trying to remember the ableism police, but, um, I I don't see it that way, and, I do think we need to care for those that are struggling, and I do think we need to have empathy towards situations that are really, tough on the mind, tough on families, um, but I don't think it helps our community, um, to pamper us along and treat us as if it's fragile and we do amazing things when really we use our brain to do ordinary things every day, just in a different body. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, right? Like beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So empathy is in the eye of the beholder, and dignity and value are also in that. And I think what I've learned, especially in the last 3 years of leading Above and Beyond with You, my nonprofit, is just being in these different spheres. I see a lot of it as people just being insecure because they haven't spent time with people in our community or culture. And for me, as somebody who's been in a wheelchair since age 8, I've seen a lot, I've lived a lot, I've struggled through a lot. um and I'm on this other part of my journey. And so, like, some non-disabled groups that I work with, or entities or individuals, are just like, wow, this is so refreshing. I'm like, well, it's part of my educator side too, right? Like 19 years of being a music educator has
That's
helped
a
me
really
be like,
Mhm,
kids are going to ask any questions. Parents are going to ask random questions. We're going to say things that we don't necessarily mean, but we stumble. Like every day, we're going to fail. Every day, there's lessons to be learned. Every day, we have the opportunity to have aha moments. And we also get to do better when we know better. But if we don't step out and be willing to be vulnerable, and we're not ready to share our story, like, then people like myself, like you, who are comfortable in our story, comfortable in our diagnosis or our disability, that I think is our calling. Again, not that we're the super crips or that we're speaking for all of disability community and
mhm,
culture, but we can share from our experience the things that we know help. And so my biggest thing is, like, just call it what it is, right? So, like, a lot of podcasts that I'm on with non-disabled hosts, I'm like, stop using the word handicap because I'm not a golf term. And they always just start laughing, like, wow, I never put two and two together, right? But it's like,
mhm,
right. So it's like, and I get, because again, I grew up in non-disabled culture more than in disability culture, being in rural Minnesota. So I wasn't around all the what you should say and what you shouldn't. And I know that changes, right? It changes per person, it changes by dialect, it changes by state or region, by country, right? And by the different times that we are in our journey. So things that I wouldn't have used to call myself in culture, now me and my bestie, who also is a manual wheelchair user, yeah, we use those terms together. But when we're in spaces like this, we make sure, like, hey, Jamie and I and Steven can call each other these names because this is cool in our world.
mhm.
But you, who's outside of our world, don't get to use those words.
That's right.
You know.
Mhm. I think when I was first I think it's been a learning, like, I'm 30 plus years as a quadriplegic. I wouldn't say the day I broke my neck for that first 2 months, I hid in a private room, um, unable to move anything from my shoulders down. When they wanted to move me, I called it Gen Pop, like general population prison. But when I got moved into a wardroom with 4 others, I didn't want to associate. I'm walking out of this place. So I get it. There'll be people that are listening to this um, that won't fully understand, and that's okay because that's part of your journey. But I think um, helping normalize um, disabilities in the workplace, um, helping normalize what we accomplish as nothing short of a miracle that we can do things. I appreciate the sentiment, um, but I have a fully functioning brain that can allow me to do some things. Just my body, it tires quicker. I never had to have afternoon naps before. I didn't have pressure sores before. So, um,
And I would add on to that too is, even if there are folks within our community that also have neurological differences, right? Like maybe their body is perfect and their brain has needs, right? And like you said earlier, nothing of this is special. Like I'm so tired of special needs. I'm tired of special education. I'm tired of these labels. And yes, as an educator, I get it. Like you teach your 3-year-old that this is the color red and this is the color blue and this is the color green, right? So yes, this is a wheelchair, this is a power wheelchair, this is a mobility device, this is an ACC. Like yes, I understand there's labels so we can understand, but it's when we go beyond that label to understand, and then we use that label to add assumptions or add pity or add our insecurities or add inspiration, right? Like I didn't even think about it because I've been told since such a young age. And I say all the time, I'm very thankful that I became disabled as a child because at age 7, yes, I had lived some life. And yes, I knew that I was different. Yes, I knew that there were places my non disabled counterparts and friends could get to that I couldn't. And yet, I didn't know truly any different. This is me. This is my life. This is the calling I have on it. And this is how I have to go about it. And I have the choice. I have the agency. I have the power to determine how this is going to be lived or viewed. And for so long, like you said, hiding in that room, I hid out in the world. Right. And so it's only been within like the last 7 to 10 years, if I'm honest, that I've found my voice, that I'm tired of just people making assumptions because I am an introvert, which you wouldn't know by interviews and all the things that I'm doing, but that is me. And the power of words is so important and the power of curious questions is where it's at. And right, and then the other part for me too is that I didn't realize that I was making so many assumptions myself because I grew up in the medical model of disability. So I would look at someone like you and go, "Oh, yep, in the first 30 seconds I can figure out you're a quad because of this, like this attribute, this moving." And then it was like, "No, like I want to see Steven." Like, "Yep, so what? He's a quad. Like if he wants to share a story with me of how he got there, awesome. If he doesn't, awesome. Does he like cheeseburgers or does he like hot dogs? You know what I mean? Like let's go back to kindergarten and ask those important questions. What's your favorite color and what's your favorite food?"
I don't know what your we didn't talk about this before, but something that's I think that grounds me is um, I have learned to find it didn't happen right away, but I've learned to find my worth, my identity is in Christ. My identity for me is that I'm made in the image of God, and therefore I am uh, I am deeply loved, I'm deeply valued, and that's my identity, and I am comfortable in that. And so, I also realize that, I've been fortunate enough as a quadriplegic to be able to reach and speak with people and with authority, not authority given to me, but by nature of my incident to be allowed into people's lives because they can go, "Oh, he gets it." And so, I've learned to shift my mind, to that set, and, I am very grateful. Every day I get up, it is a struggle, and no matter how much pain medication you're on, you can't dull it. But yet I can do this, and I can talk to, the person whose email is gonna come in after this, whether they agree or disagree, and correspond with, and, I think that's what makes, if anything is special about us, is that we've given a platform to be able to reach into others that aren't quite where we are, like you said, that are struggling, to allow us in there. And if you allow me to ask a little bit more, you mentioned your music background and your teaching background. If you're comfortable, do you mind sharing, kind of, I'm a quad, whatever, your medical journey and take us right up to, Nicole's note version, right up to, s from there to getting to a place where you're comfortable and started a nonprofit, and then, we'll start talking about the work you're doing, with that.
Yeah, Reader's Digest version. Age 7, the family story is we went ice
Reader
skating as a family to a flooded
Reader's
pond.
Digest. You dated yourself there.
I know. I'm
That's
finding
good.
myself older and older, Stephen. It's like,
Me as well.
wait, I was disabled before the Americans with Disabilities Act was even signed into law. That's really old. When you
Yeah,
think about it that way.
we're the Old
45
Testament
doesn't sound
people.
old.
Yeah. Oh, man,
Right.
you're younger than me even. I'm 48, so you're just a
Okay.
young gal. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, please
Yeah.
say what you're comfortable with anyway.
Yeah, for sure. So we were skating, and the next morning I woke up. I was in first grade, getting ready for school in our big goldenrod bathtub that shows you that it's 1988. And my one knee floated to the top through the bubbles, and I screamed for my mom because I compared it to the other knee, which was normal size, and my other knee was like the size of an American softball. So like 2 to 3 times the size of a little first grade girl knee. And we took me to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Hey, I think you have water on the knee." And my dad used to be a volunteer ambulance driver. And he's like, "My 7-year-old daughter is not an athlete. She doesn't have water on the knee. You're wrong. We need a second opinion." And thankfully, in our small rural town at that time, we had two different like clinics. And so I saw the new to me doctor, and he's like, "I think you have juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, but I can't fully diagnose you. You need to go to the next bigger town."
Where is that? Sorry, to get in there. Whereabouts are you located, just so people have a rough idea?
Yeah, I'm in Two Harbors, which is a small rural town on Lake Superior in northern Minnesota. We're about 2.5 hours south of the Canadian border. And we had to travel about 30 miles south to Duluth, which a lot of people know is right at the arrowhead of Lake Superior. And so that rheumatologist saw me and did more blood work and more x-rays. And he's like, "Yep, I'm pretty sure it is also arthritis. However, Lyme's disease, the tick-borne illness, was new on the scene, and a lot of the initial symptoms are very similar. So I had to go down to Rochester, Minnesota, to the Mayo Clinic and have my official diagnosis like a month later. Um, Lots of weird childlike medical trauma in those situations, right? Not being explained what was happening to me, not all the things like kids get to experience in the medical world today. It was very more torturous, figure out the adult world. Um Kind of fast forward, my disease was pretty aggressive, they say. I didn't know any different, right? But I was in a wheelchair within a year. Had my first chair as a rental, typical old high school hospital grade gross army green color for a little second grader. I missed more days of school in second grade than I was actually there. Lots of pain, lots of being, stuck in my bed, that kind of stuff. Lots of crying, lots of different drug taking, being in and out of rehabs for, you have to taper off this med before you can go on that med, that kind of stuff. It was my first experience of being in inpatient rehab, meeting other disabled folks like myself, some young, some old, some in between. Um, and that was kind of my first experience to disability culture. In middle school, I met my good friend Jamie, who is the president of my nonprofit. She has the same diagnosis as I do, but she was diagnosed at age 2, and I was diagnosed at 7. So she too also uses a manual wheelchair, and she kind of became my disability mentor in a lot of ways. And we had a physical therapist that brought us together through pool therapy. And so I was kind of like the bratty little sister because I'm 4 years younger than her, and her youngest sister is my same age, and all the things. And we're still really close today, including with our physical therapist who now lives in Iowa, and all of her kids are kind of my adopted nieces and nephews and all the things. Um, but anywho, I had the biggest blessing of having an amazing middle school band director. And even though she was only my teacher for 1 year, she saw me for me, and she didn't see me for my disability, but my disability wasn't a big deal. Like it was important and all the things, like she saw that, but that didn't define me. And so she just became, one of my rock star supporters. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to give back to kids. I wanted kids to feel what I felt. I went through a pretty big depression in my freshman year of high school because arthritis came back with a roaring vengeance. Was stuck home, couldn't get out of bed. And for me, we have a similar faith from you sharing. I found my own personal relationship with Jesus in
Mm.
that space. And there was a friend that had a catastrophic house fire, and I needed to get back to school so I could see that person. And so that was the impetus of like, yes, this sucks. Yes, this is hard. It's not going to be easy. And I battled with some different, depression and
Every day.
yeah, of the different cycles and different parts of life bring it on, different hormones, different situations. And yet, I have been given such grace to now turn it into a different platform, to give it power in a different way. And now it doesn't inhibit me. It fuels me. And so yeah, I became a music educator. I even, I fought hard fights through college. Like I think at one time I had 5 different discrimination claims at the chancellor's office. I was helping the local university get an accessible music room, or not room, but like building,
Yeah.
and just lots of things. And people make assumptions like, oh, well, the ADA protects this, or section 504
Pre-ADA.
does this, or and that level of life was after ADA, but it was only 8, 9 years, right? So it's like, not just because something comes into law, like poof, you snap your fingers and everything's accessible and everything's equitable and
Yeah.
people are no longer dumb, right? It's 35 years after ADA and we're still in those spaces. Like we're still learning together. We're still fighting fights. Um, but yeah, and so even in my career, I was kind of everywhere. I taught anywhere from just having a private studio to working at a charter school to working at a parochial school, and ended my career in a public school setting, actually my alma mater. And um loved it. I started an adaptive music program that was like probably the crown jewel of my 19-year career, and just seeing these kids that, like any human, right? If you give them what they need so they can thrive, and they not just survive, but thrive and enjoy and be a part of community, that's what any human deserves and longs for: to be seen, to be supported, to be cared for, to be heard. Um and so then, when the pandemic happened and my invisible disability of being immunocompromised by 2 different disease cycles and the different medications that I'm on to fight those diseases became very apparent. And my medical team was like, yep, the rest of the world is open, but Jenna, you're not, because you get one infection and we have to rip all 6 joint replacements out. So we're not taking chances with you. You need to stay home 1 more year at least, because we don't know what's going on. And my school district came back and said, we're not interested in accommodating your work from home order. Here in your contract is disability retirement options. So working with lawyers, working with the union, working with administration, and not getting a chance to have my final concerts, my final programs, my final everything. So that kind of sent me into a tailspin of, who am I? Like, yes, I'm rooted in my identity in Christ. And yet I've spent 19 years fighting all of this injustice and discrimination and negative things to become Miss You, because as you well know, Udenberg is not fun to say. So being a little 5-year-old in kindergarten, there was no hope. So they changed my name to Miss You.
Yeah.
And but that was the impetus. I was a 2020 Bush Fellow when that happened. And so that's was amazing timing. Became a published author during that time when I wrote my memoir within my spokes, worked with other people that have founded nonprofits. So then that's when I founded Above and Beyond with You, capital U, as a nod to my music career. And really started embracing this work all the time. And more importantly, bringing a lot of other people into this work, because so often our community suffers because we get people that are, leading the charge, and they're being those trailblazers and those change makers. But we can be taken out at any second by what others would have as a small infection, right? But can cause tremendous damage to us and to our work.
Yeah.
So,
Was that something that had been in your plans for a while, or is this something that was developed out of frustration, out of your unfair, not dismissal, but your closing of your career, and kind of rose to the forefront because of that?
yes to all of it. Like, I knew I needed to do something,
Mm,
and yet knowing with all the different laws and thresholds of, of assets and of investment and just all the things, right? Like, how do you do the work knowing that it's going to take years and decades? Because, like, right now, everything's volunteer, right? Everything is donation based. We're just, we're in year 3, but that's the reality of where we're at. And I love every minute of it,
me too.
but it's not like I could just be a job and then therefore paying for all my, medical insurance and PCAs and all the things that, and I'm not on a ton of systems, but the couple that I'm on, they're like life and death for me. So
Mhm.
how do you do this without jeopardizing? So that's kind of where I went to the nonprofit world. But also with Americans with Disabilities Act being the largest unfunded mandate of the American government,
Yes.
all of these mom and pop restaurants, small business, even industry, right? Like, there's nothing there for them to tap into to make their businesses, their experiences, their whatever accessible and inclusive. But yet again, if you're a for profit, they
Mhm.
didn't have the ability to go to grants and all the things. So we're still working out the minutia of, like, how do we dance in all of these different systems? And then now, currently, with where the American government is at, and we're shut down and all the things, like,
Yeah.
it's even more to navigate. But that was the impetus of how do we offer fixes instead of just complaining about the issues? And that's always my thing. I'm a solution based, proactive person, not a reactive, negative person, because enough of
Mhm.
my world already promotes the latter, and I want to
Yes.
be the first.
Yeah. Before we get to your book, there was a stat, and I was astounded by it until I looked in it a bit more. But businesses, corporations, restaurants, those that meet ADA code and beyond that actually have a 35% higher net profit at year end, just because of not just the sheer size of 1.6 or 1.3 billion worldwide individuals that classify as having a disability, but I believe it's that plus accessibility just makes life easier for everyone, elderly, like we say. So that stat, was who wouldn't want to um, start down that road if 35% net on average is what it helps for a business compared to what it probably costs to make your business that way. I don't even know if you'd heard that stat before, but I recently heard it in one of my interviews and searched it and thought that it would be great for people to hear. Um, but your book, um, let's start at the beginning, where every story starts at the beginning. Was this a passion project that you had been thinking about for a long time? Was this a writing out of a frustration, and I'm going to let the world in on my life and what I think? Or was this what, as we people that would be called spiritual, was this a moving of God in your life that you thought, you know what, He's knocking on my door to let my story be known more? Tell us about your book.
Yeah. So answering all 3 questions, I'm not being decisive, but I would say yes to all of them because I've been told since a young age that I need to write a book. And some of it was from medical providers, just knowing my story, not just from the medical side, but from how my personality deals with those things. And you and I know that that's not just our
So
personality, but it's our belief systems and
right.
how we're, like you said, how we're grounded. Um, And so when the Bush Fellowship came along, like in 2019, when I was applying for it, I was planning to like go to Sweden, the most accessible country in the world, as someone who has never flown before.
What was it
When,
called again? The Bush?
yeah, the Bush Fellowship.
Okay. Can you explain that before you go further?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So anyone living in Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, or the 23 tribal nations in those geographic areas can apply every year. I think now they are accepting up to 30 people each year, and I believe it's up to $150,000. And so those numbers were less and different when I went through in 2020.
Cool.
But it's a 2-year program, and it's not about creating your project, it's about investing in yourself. So, what do you need as a leader to take those next steps? Is there spaces in your life that you need healing? Is there spaces that you need to figure out your rhythms of life so that way you can be, can't think of my word right now, consistent and whatever the other word is. But so that way your work continues. And so, um, yeah, it was an amazing process to go through. Their tagline is think bigger, think differently. So what are those dreams? What are those things that you only aspire to? Like if there was no barriers in the world, what would you be doing and how? More importantly, how would you be doing it? And so, like I said, in 2019, as I was applying, it was like, all right, I'm going to go to Sweden, the most accessible country in the world, and their climate is very similar to northern Minnesota. So they've got really cool ways in which they make themselves accessible with ice, with snow, with all the things that I've only dreamt about and heard about. And yet, I know that because of the different rules and laws that America has, it's not like we could just start using those principles or start using those products
Sure.
here.
That'd be a frustration.
Right. And so, but like, hey, going there, meeting those people, doing the things. I also wanted to go out to Berkeley, California, the birthplace of, Section 504 and Ed Roberts and Judy Heumann and, all the places, right? If people haven't seen Crip Camp, it's a must see. Go see it on Netflix, and read all of Judy Heumann's memoirs and other folks as well. But I wanted to wheel in the places where these amazing trailblazers have wheeled. The people that gave me the right to be a proud disabled person, to be a disabled music educator, to be a disabled auntie, friend, sister, all the things that make my identity me, right?
Yes.
And to truly be inspired of the lives that they lived and how transparent they had to be. And they didn't do it for the fame and the glam. They did it because it was right. This is the right thing to do in the right time, and we're going to fight against the injustice
Mm.
to give people what they should just already have.
Mm.
And then I wanted to go to a community in Florida, and another local disability activist was down there with her husband. And the story goes that they were at a cafe, and the barista or the waitress came up to them and said, "So, what do you think about the accessibility of our town?" And her and her husband were like, "We've never had anybody ask us that before. And why?" And they're like, "We have felt weird in this community." And then as they were talking with her, they figured out why they felt weird, because every need was met. Every bathroom was accessible. Every door had a button on it. Like all the barriers that we face in all the rest of our communities, they just weren't there. And like, how amazing would that feel? And yet I can completely understand why they're like, something feels weird, but we don't know what.
That would be my dream. I mean, segue off a bit. We'll come back, but I got thinking about the other day, especially dealing with this whole nonprofit issue and the frustrations you get with. I think the ultimate dream job, especially for someone that doesn't like cold, would be able to do accessibility audits on people that want them done, not going around with a ruler and slapping people on the knuckles. It's going to places where they say, how can we make, knowing that that stat 35% net more in our pocket at the end by being more inclusive and more accessible, sign me up. And I mean, maybe there's businesses already do that, but if they're not, boy, that's certainly one I'd love to invent, but I digress.
Right.
You were talking about nice places, and Florida is one of my dream places to go in the winter. I love it, but I'd like to
Nice.
stay married as well, and my wife loves her seasons. Yeah. So
Right.
when did tell us about the book? You got your start on your book. Over what period of time did you write it? And even more importantly, um, like share a little bit about what it is, and then how can we get a copy of it for sure?
Yeah. So the book came to be a reality through the fellowship because when the pandemic hit and I wasn't traveling to all those places that I'd planned, then I was like, how do I spend this money? And so I was able to use fellowship money to learn how to write
Right.
and learn about the self-publishing world. And in this process, not only did I learn about a lot about myself and about the stories that I've shared a lot of in life, but then some stories that I was surprised that I was called to share with the world. And, it was a long process. So I would say I started in 2021. The writing and editing itself took about a year. It was published in July of 2023 because I wanted it to come out during Disability Pride Month. And it was actually on the birthday of one of my good friends who's been one of my long-term supporters of life. And, all designed not by chance, but by intention. And I in the process I did take like 3 months off because I got so tired of hearing my own voice, hearing my own story. The best piece of advice that I got from my coach, which was a part of the self-publishing process for me, was she knew I was a type A, and she's like, don't try to write your story chronologically. You need to write your story when you have the heart and the spirit and the energy
Hmm.
to write that part of your story. So on the days when you're feeling melancholy, those are the days to talk about your depression. When you're feeling like you're on the mountaintop, those are the days to write about dot 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 because you want to
Very
be in
interesting.
those spaces so your
Yeah,
words are authentic.
makes so much sense. Yeah, I would have
Mhm.
never thought that. I wanted to sit down and write it over a course of a weekend. That's a man's
Right, yeah.
way of doing it, but no, that totally makes so much.
Yeah, that's your waffle brain saying I'm in my book square.
Yeah,
Don't interrupt me. I'm in my waffle.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't make me out of it. Um, and the book is now out, and if I'm not mistaken, the Audible version is now uh, out or close to becoming out. Fill us in on that, and we'll definitely be in the show notes putting links for people to get it, because I think it's a must for whether you have a disability. You'll read it a certain way, I believe, and if you don't, um, there's so much there for you to try and understand and look at how people in their veteran years of their disability think, talk, and look like. And so I applaud you for doing that.
Yeah, so the book is called Within My Spokes, and I'll do a visual here for folks because I know for me
Mm,
I'm a visual rememberer.
yeah.
So
Hardcover.
yeah,
Is that a
sorry.
hardcover?
Yeah,
Is that a
nope,
hard?
this is
Oh,
paperback.
yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because with my hands, I'm not a big fan of
Mhm.
hardcovers, but I know for others
No,
they're
it
more
was just a
accessible. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking, but no, so it's out, in paperback and, I'm assuming
yep.
Amazon and places like that. Tell me where we can get it.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on our website. There's a link of aboveandbeyondwithyou.org. And a newly edited version will be out in the next week or two, just fixing some minor things that kind of annoyed me. And with that, the audiobook I was hoping to launch in October. More realistically, it'll be out the first or second week of November. It's been a long process, but it's me reading it to you. And so you hear my voice and you hear maybe some added content that maybe isn't in the physical too, just because, when you're reading your story, you add different inflections or a few different words here and there. But that's really important for me to have that out there because I know I have a few OGs of disability community and culture here in Minnesota waiting for the audiobook to come out because that's what they
Add me
need.
to
So,
the list. Add me to the
yep,
list for sure.
perfect.
Um,
Yeah,
you,
so I really encourage anybody to share their story, and if writing their book or doing an audiobook only is their thing, or doing podcasts or, doing an audio version of something, All of our stories are very important. And yet I would also give that warning too of like, I still today, even before this, I was at the grocery store and one of my former teachers came up. She's like, I read your book and I'm reading your column in the paper and oh, you shared this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just had to put the permagrid on, like, shoot, I shared what? Because,
Yeah.
it's just your life. And so then it's like, yeah, everybody knows that. Then it's like, oh, wait, now everybody. So there's some interesting stories in there that you'll have to go check out.
And I certainly will. When I started, I'm probably chapter 3 of One Revolution at a Time. I didn't realize when I started writing that you always hear it's a form of therapy or whatever like that. And my wife had no idea what I was doing. And I come out to the kitchen just bawling my eyes out, and she's like, "I thought you were writing a book." And I'm like, "I am," but I had to go back and rethink about stuff that I just dealt with, in adrenaline, from the accident day. I dealt with a stick-to-itiveness because at 19, I didn't want to give up like so many people did, and so I willed my way through it, but I don't ever think I had time to mourn my way through, and grieve some of the things I lost, and, it definitely is something that I don't know if it happened to you, but when you're going back through it, be prepared, not that I'm a seasoned writer, but, um, to to deal with things that maybe you didn't look at the first time, around. Yeah. Question for you as well. For someone who wants to be more inclusive, because I know you're an advocate for that as well, but for someone who wants to be more inclusive but doesn't know where to start, what's one or two practical steps that they can take um, uh, to start, at least start? You've got to start somewhere. I mean, what are a few steps that people can take, whether it's business, whether it's uh, eh, all across the sphere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great deep question. Um, I think initially the old Jenna would have been like, oh, here's A, B, C, D, right? Here's your plan to inclusion. But now this version of Jenna, going through my own stuff as well
Mm,
and learning process, is like, first take time to self-reflect. Why are you wanting to be inclusive? And what does that word mean to you? And is the point that you're truly embracing and cherishing and wanting your full community to be in your space, to be at your business, to be in your home, to be a part of the event you're planning, like whatever it is, or to make your life more full? Really wrestle with that first, because I will say, as somebody who, like you said, you just push through, you just do the things. We didn't fully grieve, we didn't go through the process. Plus, like we said earlier, you and I are old, so there's a lot of human psychology that they didn't know about in our journeys of disability as well, or in our medical conditions. And so we don't need more trauma added to us. So if your intent is like you just want to feel better about yourself, yeah, no, like let's have a deeper conversation about that. Is it, strictly for the money side of it? Ooh, I can increase my 35%. Oh, bring me that. But if you don't truly care about the people wheeling, walking, limping through your door,
mm,
yeah. So first off, it's a heart condition thing,
yeah.
right? And
Amen.
then once you figure out what that heart condition is, then I would say, what are the practical things that you can do now? And more importantly, who is the disabled people in your community and in your sphere that you need to build those relationships with in making your spaces more accessible? Like, if it's above and beyond with you and we help you figure out those things, awesome. That's why we're here. And yet, more importantly, like, okay, well, if we're not in your community, we'll help you, but we want to make sure that those voices, those stories, those folks are a part of that, because that's the whole thing. We like to do the separate, and then it's like, oh, we're separate. We don't like this. Oh, but we have to ask these people to come in to make us better. You know what I mean? So it's just flipping a lot of narratives and a lot of scripts on our head. And I've heard a lot too of, Jenna, you just articulate these things, or Jenna, you can do da da da. And it's like, sure, I can. That's Jenna. But maybe Sally in your community has other giftings, has other talents, has other ways of bringing life and activity to whatever it is you're trying to do. Or maybe it's Bob or Billy, or all the the quintessential names that get thrown out there.
Yeah.
But um and really letting yourself dream, right? Like, what, if you're a coffee shop owner, what does your coffee shop look like? What foods and beverages do you offer? What amazing different kinds of cups and things can you serve your food and beverages in, right? Like, you don't always have to serve only hot drinks in hot coffee mugs. Sometimes you get to serve popcorn, because that's the only way Jenna can eat popcorn is from a cup with a handle, like. So I think it's that dreaming part. I think it's that, letting there not be any limitations, and when those limitations come in your mind, figure out what is that unconscious bias that's saying, oh no, coffee mugs are only for coffee or tea. And I'm sure I insulted some tea people, because I'm sure there's special teacups as well. But
Yeah, I think we've raised a whole lot of phone calls and emails from this episode. We wouldn't be
you're
us if we
welcome.
did. Yeah, thank you. One thing I really appreciate you and getting to know you more and through this episode is that critical thinking is a lost art. And my mentor, Daryl, can't thank him enough for helping me reshape how I start to ask questions and think about why I'm doing that. Critical thinking was a trait of a generation that's passed. And if it could only be captured and used in a much more civilized way in the world we live in now, we would all be better for it. What are some current projects right now or initiatives you're most excited about? And a follow-up to that as we close will be, how can my listeners, your listeners, people who hear this, support your nonprofit or get involved with you? So start with your initiatives and some of the exciting things that you can talk about, or that you're ready to talk about, and let us know what we can do and how we can be involved in a part of that.
Yeah, great. um I would say some of the things that I'm most excited about currently in our specific region is I'm finally making some headway into understanding how building projects get created, and where the miscommunication or breakdown happens when it goes from an architect who understands code and understands that you can go above and beyond the ADA, to then the lived out, let's do the ribbon cutting ceremony and have Jenna or above and beyond with you come, and they want that, sticker of approval or whatever the right thing is. But then we get in the space and it's like, this isn't what was talked about at this meeting, or this isn't what the blueprint had said, or it looks like the last shift of Friday put the dispenser where now the whole bathroom isn't accessible
Yeah.
for a whole host of different folks, right?
Mm.
So that's always been my struggle, just as a disabled human, but then especially as an advocate and an activist. So I'm excited to be working with city planners and other local entities and agencies to try to really dial down of, like, where does this happen and how do we stop that? How do we educate, and how do we bring people alongside at the right times?
Not us against them, right?
Right. But all of us with each other, because we all got to go to the bathroom. So, like, let's just
Absolutely.
make bathrooms accessible.
True. I get it. It's not us against them. And I think so often it's like, oh, those people, we need to accommodate them. It's like, no, you don't need to, but one day you're going to need to be accommodated. So let's not make the world a better place and think logistically now about it. For those that want to support, I know as someone that is trying to start a charity and a nonprofit, it's hard to grow a donor base. I'm sure that would be much appreciated. Um, how can they give? Is there a link somewhere? And what are some of the other areas people might be able to come alongside if it's volunteer time that you're looking for or what have you? You know best.
Yeah, so if you go to our website, aboveandbeyondwithyou.org, there's a PayPal donation. We also have our PO box there if sending checks or those kinds of things are better. And just keep an eye on that page because we're in the process of updating for Venmo and other ways of donating. Also in November, we have the Give Minnesota Day where we celebrate all the nonprofits. And so there'll be a different link there. And actually, that link still might be on our website because you can give it any time, but there's a special push in November. And, buying the book, all the proceeds of my memoir Within My Spokes go straight to Above and Beyond with You's work. Sharing all of our sites. So we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So, sharing about our nonprofit, following us, finding me on all the different podcasts. You can type my name in wherever you listen to podcasts and you'll hear lots of different stories. And then, it's really just word of mouth. It's really just, how do we uplift those stories? And also on my website, you'll see my articles from 2025 in our Lake County Press. I write every other week a column called Local View from 4'2". So lots of different topics get covered there, not just about Minnesota, but just life in general and being a better human and sometimes the frustrations of being a disabled woman as well. So there's lots of fodder in the blog section of my website as well. So
Thank you so much. Jenna and I met on Podmatch. Podmatch is a platform that connects podcast hosts and guests who are made perfect for each other. If you've ever wanted to share your story, or on the other side, if you're looking for that perfect guest for your show, head to Podmatch and check them out. You can go to joinpodmatch.com/swagability. That's joinpodmatch.com/swagability, and be sure to tell them Swags has sent you. Jenna, some closing thoughts. Looking ahead, what gives you hope for the future of accessibility and inclusion? And how do you stay motivated when progress feels so slow?
I have hope in the fact that the disability culture and community is growing every single day and it becomes more and more diverse and a thicker and more beautiful tapestry. And I long for the day when all disabled people realize that their story matters and that they have worth, and that when we
Amen.
come together, we have power to change this world. The ways that I restore myself is I am a fiend for playing card and board games. I love building a relationship around a coffee table. I love hanging out with my besties in my introverted ways where you just get to be you and you don't have to have your superhero cape on. You don't have to be politically correct. You don't have to, do all the things. You just get to be yourself. And I encourage others to find those things that help them just be themselves.
Let's finish up with a couple rapid fire for you. Tea or coffee?
Frou frou coffee. Totally.
Okay, all right. Morning or night person?
Oh, unfortunately, night, but sunsets are gorgeous.
Favorite motivational quote?
Judith Human. I love to see feisty disabled people change the world.
Hmm. Wow, you do think on your feet, literally. Um,
And wheels.
and to finish the sentence, accessibility to me means,
I can fully be myself wherever I am.
amen to that. Jenna Udenberg, ladies and gentlemen, um, Above and Beyond, you can check out her work there. Her website is in our show notes, and you can also visit uh, her website to get your hands on her book, as well as Amazon, and we'll have it in the show notes as well. Um, if you folks are looking to find accessible products, have answers questioned, or be encouraged, head on over to SwagAbility and check out our website. And you would do us the greatest honor by actually subscribing to this channel and sharing it with someone you know that could use the encouragement. I've loved today's conversation, and I can't wait for our next episode. Thanks for hanging out with us on the SwagAbility Show, Jenna and my friends. Until next time, stay strong, stay safe, stay healthy, and remember, thrive where life finds you. Swags out.